Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's 60-minute presentation as part of the Wednesday Rainmaking webinar series presented by the Women Rainmakers and the ABA Law Practice Division. My name is Austin Connolly, and I am the Marketing Assistant of the Legal Technology Resource Center. I'd like to take the time to make a few announcements before I turn things over to our Rainmakers. Questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Please enter your questions into the question box in the webinar panel on the right side of your screen. We will try to answer all of your questions, but if we run out of time, there will be space in the evaluation form to ask additional questions. Please note that there is a PDF copy of the slides which can be found in the Handouts tab located under the question box on the right side of your screen. Please assist our Women Rainmaking Committee by taking the time to complete the evaluation, which will be emailed to you immediately after the program. This assists us in developing future programs. We really appreciate and welcome the input. Our moderator today is Kelly Zerillo. Kelly is an associate in the Trust and Estates Practice Group at the New York City law firm of Moses and Singer. Kelly is a member and former board member of the Long Island chapter of Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners, and her articles have appeared in the Journal of Taxation and Trust and Estate magazine. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
Thank you, Austin. And thank you to all the Rainmakers around the country who have chosen to learn more about mentors, sponsors, and coaches to assist in their rainmaking. The mission of the ABA Women's Rainmakers is to educate professional women about marketing and business development, to provide mentoring opportunities for members, and to provide networking opportunities to build personal and professional relationships. Today, we are fortunate to have two wonderful speakers to provide insight on the differences among mentors, sponsors, and coaches, and to provide guidance on how to find the right mentor, sponsor, or coach. Today's speakers are Elise R. Holtzman and Caro Shiro Greenwald. Elise Holtzman is an experienced attorney and certified business coach, consultant, and trainer. As the founding partner of The Lawyer's Edge, Elise has worked for a decade with individual attorneys, as well as law firms and legal departments, to help them achieve their professional and organizational goals. Areas of expertise for Elise and her team include networking and business development, leadership development, and law practice management. Caro Shiro Greenwald is a management and marketing strategist and coach. She works with professionals and professional service firms to structure and implement growth programs that are both strategic and practical and helps our clients become more efficient and effective. Thank you both for joining us today. We are excited to learn more about mentors, sponsors, and coaches.
So what we're going to be talking about today is how you find and decide the kind of mentor, coach, or sponsor that will help you to move forward in your career. Careers don't just happen. It's not enough to be talented. It's not enough to work 20 hours a day. You also have to be visible. You have to have allies in your firm. You have to have advocates, whether they're the mentor or the sponsor. And you have to be willing to advocate for yourself. And one of the first ways of doing that is to pick for yourself a mentor, a coach, or a sponsor. Elise and I are going to share the rest of the slides, and we're going to about first what the differences are between the three kinds of people, of roles, and then we're going to be telling you how to find those people. So what we want you to really understand is that being a success, having a wonderful career, doesn't just happen. You don't stand on the street corner and put your finger out and the Uber of careers comes along and helps you. You have to do it yourself by picking people who can help you become the best that you can be in your career. Because really, when you think about it, success in a career is a team sport, and we're going to talk about picking people for your team. Okay, Elise.
Okay, Carol. I'm just going to switch over here. All right, so as Carol said, we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between coaches, mentors, and sponsors so that everybody has a level playing field and you kind of know who and what we're talking about. First, let's talk about coaching. What is coaching? What is a professional coach? So coaching in its present form started in the 1980s, and it's gained widespread acceptance in the professional world. Although coaching draws skills and principles from things like consulting and athletic coaching, and even a bit from therapy, although to be clear, coaches are not licensed therapists themselves. It's a unique paradigm and profession with its own tools, skills, and ethical guidelines. The goal of coaching is to guide you in getting you from where you are now to where you want to be professionally. And it provides an objective third party who is entirely focused on your agenda. Is anybody else hearing some interference? Maybe the other panelists could mute themselves. Thanks for that. So, you know, if you think about it, you have people in your life who love you and care about you and want to be able to be helpful to you. And when you talk to them, they can be really helpful, but they can't really be objective, right? Because even your spouse or your best friend or your partner has some skin in the game. And so one of the things that's great about having a professional coach is that the coach's only agenda is whatever your agenda is. They're not going to be telling you what to do, pushing you in any particular direction. Their goal is to help you figure out what it is that you want and how to get there. So a coach can guide you to clarify your goals. Some of you may be very clear on what your goals are, and for some of you, it may be a little more fuzzy. So a coach can help you figure out what it is that you want, as opposed to what it is that you may think you should be pursuing, and help you also identify your unique motivations, because your motivations are what's going to power you through the hard work of getting where it is you want to go. A coach can also help you identify and then leverage opportunities. What's out there for you? What are the possibilities, and how do you take advantage of them? Another really important thing that a coach does is help you overcome obstacles to success. So if you think about it, you know, all of us have theoretically unlimited potential to achieve what we want. There are obstacles, though, that get in the way, and some of those are external obstacles. My favorite example is, you know, you want to be an Olympic snow skier, but you live in Hawaii. But most of what gets in our way is the internal stuff, the stuff that's going on inside your own head, the fears and things that are holding you back. And so coaches are uniquely situated to help you get through those things. And then a coach will help you develop a plan of action to achieve your goals. What's the plan? And then help you hold you accountable as you implement the plan. You know, so when you're getting on the phone with your coach, let's say for a coaching session, you may well think to yourself, you know, I better do the things that I said that I was going to do because I want to make sure that I'm moving forward. And so having a coach and having a coach help you work through what the obstacles are is what holds you accountable in terms of actually getting things done, so that you can move forward. And another thing to consider is that these are confidential conversations, right? So one of the tenets of coaching is that the conversation between you and your coach should be kept confidential so that you feel comfortable being able to share everything that the coach might need to hear in order to be able to help you. A couple more things just in terms of how coaching works. There are both internal and external coaches. So many large organizations, companies, and law firms may have internal coaches that are salaried employees who are staff. So you may find an internal coach inside a human resources department. In a law firm, you may find internal coaches in a professional development department. But there are also many external coaches who are in their own businesses or work for coaching companies. So for example, Carol and I are each coaches with our own businesses. I have a partner, Carol is doing it on her own, but we are private coaches who can be paid by you or sometimes your organization. Your organization may be willing to invest in coaching for you. Coaching may happen face-to-face, in person, so you may sit in an office, either yours or someone else's, to have that conversation. Much coaching actually gets done over the phone. So I'm sure Carol can say the same thing. I've had coaching clients all over the country and actually outside the country internationally. And many people are very comfortable using online platforms so that you can see your coach and your coach can see you. Another thing to know about coaching is that many coaches specialize. So there are coaches who do a lot of individual coaching. There are coaches who do business partners coaching. So for example, if you're in a small law firm and you and your partners want to achieve something, you may work together. There's also group coaching, which can be very effective for certain reasons and can also be very efficient from a cost perspective for an organization. And then coaches specialize in certain topic areas sometimes. So it could be that a coach specializes in helping you with client attraction and business development. It could be helping you develop management skills. It could be leadership coaching. So you might want to find somebody who does a lot of work in the area that you need help in. And a couple other things to note. Many coaches have received coach-specific training. So, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but there are coaches that receive training, earn credentials, take continuing coach education similar to our CLE. I'm one of those coaches. I went through a coach training program, and I'm part of the International Coach Federation, which certifies and accredits programs. And then there are other coaches like Carol, for example, who develop coaching skills as part of their work experience. She just has a tremendous amount of work experience working with people in marketing and other areas. So she has become skilled as a coach. And then finally, you know, there are tools that coaches use. They may ask you to fill out worksheets, do assessments, watch videos that they've prepared for a particular purpose, and encourage you to read certain books and articles that might be helpful to you. But the bottom line is that, you know, that's an overview of coaching and how a coach can help you achieve your goals more quickly. The bottom line is, and you'll see this later when we talk about how to find them, coaches are easy to find. You can go out and find yourself a coach or a series of coaches. All right, so I'm going to turn this back over to Carol. Carol, it's time to talk about mentors.
Okay, what are mentors? Mentors are the voice of experience, but that doesn't mean mentors are old. A mentor could be somebody in your firm with a lot of experience, but it could be somebody who has a skill set that you want to learn. It could be somebody who's working in a different practice area that you want to know more about. It could be, for instance, if you're in litigation, somebody who's had a lot of experience going to court, where you've had mostly experience in writing briefs, and so you want to learn more. So you'll be picking a mentor depending on what it is that you want. Sure, they're experienced, but again, they don't have to be old. A mentor is a nice person for you, a friend, a person who's going to be honest and candid, but also who's going to always have your back. They offer advice, guidance, feedback, and sympathy. So they can boost your confidence. They can be a shoulder to cry on when you think that you have been misunderstood. And they're usually very empathetic. Primarily, they're a sounding board. You can vent, and they will help you to figure out how to do something better. You can explain to them why a meeting seemed to go wrong, and they can tell you how you were perceived by other people. You can talk to them about the culture of your firm. I don't understand why women are given this assignment and men are given that assignment. I don't understand why women are only on certain committees. I don't understand why women are treated differently in this area or that area, or women of color are treated differently than white women. I don't understand these things. Explain them to me. And the mentor is a person that you have selected because they can do that for you. So they can also help you to make connections to people that you want to talk to that will help you to learn new areas, to understand. They can suggest to you, for instance, that you take a leadership course, or that you take a course in public speaking, or some other area where they think that you will benefit by improving your skill set. The wonderful thing about a mentor in many ways is that they don't expect anything in return. They want to help you, it's kind of pay it forward. It's help you because they like you. It's leave a legacy by creating really talented lawyers in their firm. They do take a personal interest in you and your career, but basically it's because they like you or out of a sense of altruism. And the one thing to think about when you're selecting a mentor, which we'll talk about later, is if it's a person inside your firm, particularly a person in your practice area, you're going to be asking them to keep what you say confidential, but they may have slightly divided loyalties. So again, when you're choosing a mentor, you may have to think about that. And if what you want to talk about is something that you can learn from someone outside your firm and not have to worry about divided loyalties, you may want to do that. And finally, the last thing about a mentor is that it's a reciprocal relationship. You'll learn from the mentor, but the mentor will learn from you. They'll learn about perspectives of people who are new to the practice of law. They'll learn more about what you're doing and understand that better, just as you'll learn more about the questions that you have and want answered. Okay, Elise.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carol. So let's move on to talk about what a sponsor is. The concept of sponsors itself is not new. This has been going on for years and years, but it's only in recent years that it's being talked about and highlighted in the legal and business communities under that name, under the name sponsor. It's gotten a lot of attention recently, particularly after the 2013 publication of a book called Forget a Mentor, Find a Sponsor by Sylvia Ann Hewlett. And so I recommend that book if you decide that you want to learn a bit more. So a sponsor has some things in common with a mentor. This is someone who takes an interest in you, just like a mentor does, and can show you the ropes, also like a mentor. But there's a huge difference between the two. First of all, a sponsor is someone who has power and political clout and uses it to help you advance in your career. So you may have terrific mentors, people who genuinely care about you and want to see you succeed, but they don't have the power, they don't have the political capital to actually help move you forward. They can give you advice and be helpful in that regard and help pave the way and make introductions for you, but they actually don't have enough power to influence what other people think and do with respect to your career. The other thing is that a sponsor-protege relationship is a transactional relationship. And I think this is the #1 takeaway. This is really a strategic alliance between you and the sponsor. It's a symbiotic relationship. So not only is the sponsor helping you climb the ladder, but you are helping burnish that person's reputation. You're there as a support for that person. That person needs you to achieve his or her own goals. So the example that will probably resonate with most of you is a partner in a large firm and an associate. The partner has a lot of political clout, let's say. Perhaps the partner's on the management committee or has the ear of those folks or brings in a lot of business. The partner may pound on the table and say, I need this associate to make partner. And the reason the partner is willing to do it is because he can't run his practice without that associate. The associate is so much a part of his practice and so much a part of his clients' business lives that he feels that without that associate making partner, something bad will happen to his practice. And so that's an example of, you wash my back, I wash yours. The associate's job is to help the partner, make the partner look good, make the clients happy so that the partner can continue doing what he is doing. Now, I'm using the term he as opposed to he and she. First of all, it's a little clunky, but we have to be honest and understand that although things are changing, much of the power and the political capital and political clout in law firms and organizations with legal departments are still in the hands of men. So we'll talk about this a little bit later, but as you consider who might be a sponsor for you, I think it's really important to look both at men and at women. Excuse me, even if you like the idea of working with women, even if you're looking to help advance women, I think it's important to look at both men and women for those reasons. Okay, so again, it's a reciprocal relationship. We talked about that, but something to consider. This is not somebody who needs to be your best friend, right? And this is not somebody who you need to necessarily emulate in terms of style. Your styles can be very different. You need to have a good relationship with your sponsor. You need to respect your sponsor, but you don't necessarily have to mold yourself into the image of that person. What you're looking for is clout. You're looking for loyalty. You're looking for trust. but you don't need to be best friends. One of the things that's important here is that you make sure you know what your needs and wants are and that they're being met, right? So again, it's really important to view both sides of this. Yes, you've got to help this person get where he or she is going, but at the same time, you've got to be very clear on what it is that you want and need, because they're not necessarily going to be exactly the same thing all the time, right? Your needs may be different. For example, your sponsor may want you to be working 7 days a week and knocking yourself out. You may decide that there's a part of your life that needs to be attended to and you can't do that. That's a conversation that you can have while still promoting one another, right? So you've got to be able to advocate for yourself and not just go along with whatever it is the partner wants. It's a conversation that has to be had. And it can be had as long as you keep the general tenet in mind, which is that this is a reciprocal relationship where you're helping each other out. So the idea is it's a win-win scenario. And we'll talk a little bit more. It's a little bit tricky when it comes to finding a sponsor. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. So let's jump into that topic. How do you find coaches, mentors, and sponsors now that we know what the differences are? So let's go back to coaching and let's talk about how to find a coach. So first of all, let's just touch for a minute on why to find a coach, right? I've told you some terrific things about coaches. Obviously, I believe very strongly in having a coach or more than one as a guide. But I want to give you some specific examples of times when you might decide to engage a coach. Perhaps you want to learn how to bring in clients. At the risk of stating the obvious, they didn't really teach us this stuff in law school. They didn't teach us networking, client attraction, and business development. Many people find that it's a challenge for them. So a coach might help you do that. A coach could prepare you to assume a new leadership role or to improve in your current role. Maybe you're moving from senior associate to partner. Maybe you're a junior partner and you're taking on leadership of committees or a practice group or something like that. And while you're a very good lawyer and you have excellent legal skills, you don't necessarily have leadership skills. That's completely understandable. There's nothing wrong with not having those skills. And a coach is somebody who can help you develop them. You might want to get better at managing your team or improve your skills for working collaboratively with others. Even if it's not a team, you may decide that you want to communicate better with people that you work with. Perhaps you've decided to shift gears entirely and start your own law practice or move from private practice to in-house, and you want somebody to help you navigate that transition. That's something that coaches do. They help people navigate transitions from one job or role to the next. Or you may just not know what you want to do next, and you need somebody to help you figure out what you want from your professional future. So once you've determined that you want to find a coach, it's actually pretty easy to find a coach. First of all, there may be internal coaches in your organization, as I said before. You can find coaches through referrals, as you would with any other service professional, from other lawyers. Professional development staff inside law firms and companies often have a number of coaches that they know or have worked with and can make a recommendation for you. Many coaches also speak. So obviously Carol and I are speaking today. We're both coaches. You may speak to bar association personnel who have relationships with coaches that they've brought in to run workshops or deliver seminars. Another great way to find a coach is to go to coachfederation.org. That is the website of the International Coach Federation that I mentioned earlier. It's the international self-regulatory body of the coaching profession. There are many, many local chapters, but if you go on coachfederation.org, you can find a coach and you can narrow it down to find the type of coach that you want. So something to consider, just a few things to consider. Most coaches offer a complimentary coaching consultation so that you can get a sense of whether this coach is a good fit for you. You can ask them questions. They'll ask you some questions to find out whether they can be helpful to you or not. But the key here is to find a good fit. If you're not comfortable with the coach, then this is not a good person for you. There are plenty of coaches out there, and you're going to want to find somebody that you feel that you can share, the good, the bad, and the ugly with. Also of note is fees and offerings. So different coaches, as I mentioned before, may offer different options in terms of coaching, and the fees can vary widely based on location, specialty, education, and experience. So just do your homework. I would definitely recommend talking to a couple of coaches before you make a choice. And then understand that you can have a fairly short coaching engagement with somebody, and if it's not a good fit for you, then there's always somebody else to talk to. Okay, Carol?
So how do you find a mentor? Well, you can find a mentor many ways. There are mentors all over the place. Some of them will be inside your organization. Some of them will be people in careers you'd like to have. Somebody will be friends, colleagues, people with specific knowledge that you're following on something like LinkedIn. They're all over. Typically, if they're in your organization, you know them already. You've worked together or you've shared outside activities together, and so you know them. And then what you might want to do for those people is, as it says below, you might just ask them out for coffee. Now, I wouldn't hit them over the head and say, gosh, I want you to be my mentor. No, instead of that, go a little more subtly and say, got a couple of questions that I really would like to talk over with someone with more experience in this area than I have. Could we go out for a cup of coffee? And then have a list of the specific questions that you want answered and go with your list. And then listen, but react and take some of their advice, but you don't have to take all of their advice. Of course, always say thank you afterwards. Now, some firms have formal mentoring programs where partners who want to participate will have associates either in their practice area or in another department that they are assigned to. These typically don't have a high level of success because most partners are not trained to be mentors. They're not trained to talk without having opinions about everything. And it can be very difficult. They can get back into the partner associate level kind of a relationship, or they can get back into a female male kind of relationship. So they can be difficult. But often there are affinity groups within your firm. Many firms, larger firms certainly, have women's groups. Many firms have diversity groups. You should look there for somebody that you feel that you could be close to talk to. And then there are peer-to-peer networking groups that you can join, where the point about them is to learn various forms, as Elise said, of networking, of business development, of teamwork, of running meetings, of being a good speaker. Many people that I know, many lawyers that I've worked with, have joined Toastmasters, which is a group, an outside group that teaches you how to be a public speaker. So it depends on what it is, again, that you're looking for. But don't forget also that there are many, many, many online options for finding a mentor. There's online courses that you can take, and there's blogs that you can look at, and then after you've read a blog and you like what the person is saying, send them an email and say to them, could we talk about this offline? Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of these are places where you can find people that you admire, that you would like to talk to about specific parts of your career that you want to have more control over. So by all means, you should take advantage of the breadth that the internet offers you. There's also online mentoring groups that you can find. The most casual ones are part of Meetup. Meetup.com, where you can look and see what kinds of meetings are happening in your geographic area. Many of them have to do with mentor-style conversations. Then there's more sophisticated and more specific ones where there's online forums dedicated to specific kinds of business-related issues or personal-related issues. Many of them today, I was just looking today for mindfulness and lawyers. There are many, many online options for lawyers who want to learn more about mindfulness and cognitive behavior therapy kinds of approach to work. So whatever it is that you decide to do, don't think that you're going to have a mentor for life. You won't. You're going to have many mentors as you go through life. Excuse me. And when you're finished with one mentor, that's fine. Stay friends. But then if you have another issue and you need a different kind of mentor, start over again and go looking for them. Okay, Elise.
Okay, just to expand on something Carol said, one of the things that I'd like to say is, you can have mentors early and often, right? So you can have, as Carol said, many different mentors at different stages of your career or stages of life. You can have numerous mentors at any one time. You might have a mentor who's great at helping you with, technology, if that's not something that you grew up with. You might also have a mentor for helping you navigate internal politics. You might have a mentor who has her own small law firm when you're starting your own small law firm. So there are lots of different ways to, lots of different types of mentors that you can have, and there's really no limit to how many you can have or how long you're going to have them. And so, I would, one thing I would also add to what Carol said is this idea of having mentors outside of your practice group. So if you're in a larger firm and you're in a practice group, you may decide that you just want to pick the brain of somebody in a different practice group or at a different stage of her career. And being able to reach outside and make it clear that you respect somebody's opinion and you're interested in hearing it is usually enough to have a mentor want to have a conversation with you. Because as Carol said, people want to pay it forward. People who are already successful love sharing what they know with other people. So be proactive about getting out there and finding mentors for yourself. Now we're going to turn our attention to how to find a sponsor. And as I said before, this is a lot trickier. It's not that it can't happen. It absolutely can happen. But it's the hardest to find because, again, this is a two-way street, and the sponsor is going to be investing in you as much as you're investing in her. And so it's often got to be an organic situation. You've got to like each other, work closely together, have similar ways of working. And it's not as easy to put two people together and announce that they're going to have a sponsor-protege relationship. There are firms, Carol mentioned before that many firms have formal mentoring programs, and there are even firms and organizations that try to put sponsor programs into place. And so those definitely have varying levels of success. Because again, you're putting together, it's like blind dating, right? You're putting together two people who may or may not decide that they want to work together. So when you're looking for a sponsor, it's important to evaluate the landscape. Look around and see who it is that you think has political capital, that is somebody who has the ear of the decision makers in your organization, and somebody that you'd like to work with, somebody where it would make sense for the two of you to be working together and collaborating. And remember that sponsors have to have clout, right? So to go back to Carol's explanation of mentors can be wonderful, and we can feel warm and fuzzy towards them. They can feel warm and fuzzy towards us. And it can be tempting to confuse those good feelings with a good fit for sponsorship. But unless that sponsor has power and clout and is able to advance your career, that person should be kind of kept in the mentor category. Be intentional about who you're working with. As I said before, look around and make sure you understand what the landscape looks like. Make sure you understand the person's goals and how you can deliver value. What is it that this person wants to achieve? Maybe she wants to bring in more business and she wants to be out there networking and rainmaking, and you're going to hold down the fort. Maybe this is somebody who wants to now become managing partner and has aspirations of helping to lead the firm. So the more you understand the person's goals, the much more likely it is that you're going to be able to deliver value to that person and have that person see you as somebody who can deliver for him or her. What do you bring to the table? So we talked about this a little bit, but obviously you want to be demonstrating your competence, your loyalty, your trustworthiness, your willingness to get the job done. And, you know, if there's a way that this person wants you to be helpful, it's probably worth asking the question, you know, what else can I do to be able to be helpful to you? As I said earlier, it's important to be able to do that for yourself as well. Here are some things that I'm considering. Here are some things that I'd like to have happen. Articulate your own goals. What might some of those goals be? So let's say you do have somebody who's willing to stand in the sponsor position for you. What might some of those goals be? If you're a junior person, it may be getting stretch assignments. It may be more client contact. If you're in-house, you know, which probably most of you aren't at the moment, or you probably would not be worrying about rainmaking, but it may be, hey, you know, I want to move into a different practice area. I want to move into a different group within the firm. I want to go onto the business side. So it's important to be able to articulate your own goals, know what they are, and make sure they're being met. But a caveat here, you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is one of the challenges with sponsors. Sponsors are a wonderful thing to have, and you know, many women put their nose to the grindstone and think that if they do good work, they're going to succeed. And what they're missing is that they need to have those political connections. But it's important not to put all your eggs in one basket. You can imagine a situation in which your sponsor leaves the firm. This has happened to people. So you build a relationship with a sponsor, and then the sponsor leaves the firm, and nobody else in the firm knows who you are and has never had the opportunity to work with you. So I think it's really important to make sure that you are working with others. You may be doing the majority of your work with your sponsor, but it's important to work with others so that you get to develop relationships with other people in the firm, perhaps in other practice groups, perhaps at a management level, so that if that sponsor does have the opportunity to push you forward, other people can say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I really know her. She's the person that we want doing this. All right, so I am going to turn it back to Carol just to kind of wrap up, and then I guess we're going to get to some questions soon.
Okay, one more point in terms of sponsors. Nowadays, you cannot move to partner or move up the leadership ladder of a firm if you don't have a client base. And sometimes sponsors are going out and doing all of the rainmaking and not allowing the worker bee, who's you, the junior person, to go out and find their own. So you may have to make that part of your conversation with the sponsor, that you not only will do his work or her work, but that you also want help from them to learn how to be a rainmaker, to learn how to find your own clients. Because without a client base, without a good rainmaking, business development kind of background, you're going to be a worker bee forever. So that's just, think about that kind of thing. So back to our final slide.
Yeah, Carol, I'll say one more thing on that. It's a great point, and it raises for me the idea that sometimes you have to teach your sponsor a little bit how to be your sponsor, right? So it's not these folks went to sponsor school and they know exactly what it looks like. Right? Many of them may never even have heard the term sponsor. But when you know what it is, and when you know what this relationship best look like, you can not only help your sponsor achieve his or her goals, but you can actually help this person help you. And one of the ways you do that is by saying, you know, and maybe asking the questions, what do you think needs to happen in this firm in order for me to have X happen, right? If I want X, Y, Z, what do you think needs to happen in order for me to get there? And can you help me with that? You know, so for example, I know that I need to have business. How do you think I can go about getting business? Can I get more FaceTime with your clients so that they get super comfortable with me? Can you make introductions for me to other people so that we're both pursuing their business and it's not just you, and maybe we have a better chance of getting it, right? There are lots of conversations that you can have with this person so that you can be helping him or her, and you can teach him or her how to help you. All right, Carol?
Okay, so let's start with the basic point I think we want you to know, and that is that businesses and careers were started by men. Men play sports. Going and developing your career is a team sport. You have entered a world that was developed by and for men. Not saying that women are not beginning to make a difference. We are absolutely beginning to make a difference. Diversity is beginning to make a difference as well. But the rules of the game were created as a team sport. So there is no such thing for most people of being a do-it-yourselfer. You need to find and leverage allies. You also need to mix and match what you're looking for. Sometimes you just want a shoulder to cry on. That's a mentor. Sometimes you want to learn a specific skill set. So you call someone like Elise or me and you say, I need to learn to network. I need to learn to be a leader of my team. I need to learn any of these kinds of skills. Or you say, the head of my department's fabulous. I love the way he works. I love his clients. I love her clients. I want to really work for her. I want to develop a relationship, a sponsor kind of relationship. Remembering that that is the one where you need to be very clear on what you want out of it. For all three of them, how good it is for you and how well it works will depend on how well you think about what it is you need to learn and what it is you want to learn and why you want to learn it. When you can mix the why and the what, they can help you with the how. That's the easiest part, really. And then change them up. Mentors can be anytime, anywhere, any place. I would bet I probably had 20 mentors in my career. I've also had 5 careers, but so maybe that's why there's 20. But there's plenty that you can do. And then go out. And I think one of the ways that you can develop yourself is to pick someone for a mentor or a coach from a different background, because that in itself will be a learning experience. Always clarify confidentiality up front. With a mentor, with coaches, it comes with it, and with a sponsor. You want the sponsor to be able to support you and back you and all the rest. But when you have certain kinds of questions and issues, you want to make sure they stay confidential. You don't want them going out to lunch with someone and saying, Susan asked me the most amazingly strange question yesterday. So you have to be sure that you've set those parameters too, sort of like setting client confidentiality. And I think the most important thing to remember, particularly for women and people of color, is that it's not just talent and work. Those are the basics. You bring them in. They're in the base. They're assumed. If that's all you're going for, it's going to be very hard to move all the way up the ladder. You need the help of people around you, people outside, to make it happen. And if you don't take control of your career, nobody else will. So it's very important that you understand that you have the power to make yourself whatever it is you want to be. And use mentors, sponsors, and coaches to help you get there. Elise?
All right, so I think that wraps up our section with the slides, and I guess I can give it back over to Kelly. Maybe we'll open it up for Q&A. Kelly, do you want to take it from here?
Yes, thank you, Elise and Carol, for that great information. We've received some questions from speakers, for the speakers from the audience members, but if anyone out there has any additional questions, feel free to send them. We'll try to get to as many as we can. If we do not get to your question, please feel free to reach out to our speakers directly. So our first question from the audience is, if I decide to hire a coach, should I be paying for it myself, or is it possible my organization will pay for it on my behalf? What's typical? And if my organization pays for it, is it really confidential?
Do you want me to go ahead and take that, Kelly? This is Elise.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so as far as paying for it, you may decide that you want to hire your own coach and pay for it, but As the person who asked the question implied, there are times when your organization might be willing to pay for all or part of it on your behalf. So if, for example, you're in a firm and you want to develop business, the firm obviously is going to want you to develop business as well, assuming you're at a certain level. You know, we all know that many times when you're particularly junior, the firm doesn't want you to be spending your time doing that. Having said that, you know, it's important for you to be developing relationships early anyway. But when it comes time that they want you to develop business, they may be willing to invest in you. You know, they understand, or you can make them understand that you don't have those kinds of skills, that it's something that you're interested in doing. And so they may be willing to pay for all or part of the coaching. There are some firms that have said to me things like, well, you know, we're willing to invest in this person for coaching. We're willing to pay for part of it, but we want to know that the attorney receiving the coaching has some skin in the game. So we want that person to pay for half of it, or we want that person to pay for a third of it. And the idea is, you know how it is with a personal trainer, right? If you paid, you know, at the athletic club, if you've paid for the personal trainer at the gym, and you've shelled out money, you're more likely to show up, do what it takes to succeed, and to be accountable. And there's a theory that the same thing goes with coaching, so that if you are investing not just your time and energy, but also your money in coaching, that you're likely to take it, you're more likely to take it super seriously and make some progress. So some firms take that tack. I think what I would say is, if you're interested in coaching and it's something that you're willing to share with your firm, you're willing to have your firm know that you're engaging a coach, it pays to have a conversation. You know, you may just say to them, hey, listen, you know, I'm interested in developing business. I'm interested in developing my leadership skills because I'm working with a lot more associates now and I'm kind of leading teams. I want to develop my skills. Might you guys be able to provide me with coaching? Or if I were to find my own coach, might you be willing to help me share the cost of that or pay for it? So that's the answer to that question. It just sort of depends on your situation, but I would certainly ask if they would be willing to make that investment in you. Kelly, there was another question there. Can you remind me what that was?
Sure. So,
oh, I think it was about
if the organization pays for it, is it really confidential?
Right. Okay. So this is something that's important to know about coaching. When you are with an organization and your organization hires a coach for you, the International Coach Federation, the coaching community, has certain terminology for that. So, and it's a little confusing, you'll see based on what we've been talking about today. The hiring firm is called the sponsor. That's not the same as the sponsor we're talking about, okay? It's a completely different term. But the hiring firm is called the sponsor, but you're the client. And the duty of confidentiality runs from the coach to the client, not to the sponsor. Now, there's no question that sometimes that can get a little dicey for the coach, but the onus is on the coach to make sure that she doesn't cross the line when it comes to talking to the sponsor. So what I will typically tell the hiring firm and tell the sponsor is, listen, I can absolutely let you know, if Carol is going along with the coaching program, right, if she's showing up to calls, because obviously I'm not going to take their money if the client isn't participating. But I'm not going to tell you what the content of our conversation is. And, I have found that firms are pretty good about that. They understand, we're all lawyers, so they understand the concept of confidentiality, and they're not looking to break that confidentiality. What a skilled coach can do, though, is talk you as the client through the issues. And if there's something that really is best discussed between you and the firm or somebody in the firm, help you figure out a way to have that conversation in a way that feels comfortable for you, so that you're not necessarily keeping certain things from the firm, but you're actually having conversations that enable things to get better for you. There are going to be things that you don't want to discuss with your firm, and regardless of who's paying, your coach should be keeping that confidential.
Great, thank you, Elise. We have another question from an audience member. It reads, and this isn't for either of you specifically, so I guess whoever would like to jump on this one. Does my mentor or sponsor need to be someone that looks like me, or can a man really be a valuable mentor or sponsor for a woman Can a white man be a valuable mentor or sponsor for a woman of color, and so forth?
I think the answer, I'll take that. I'll start and Lise can finish. I think that absolutely they can. I mean, if they couldn't, think of all the books that wouldn't have been written, think of all the courses that wouldn't have been taught. But what you're looking for is a person who respects you as a person, regardless of your color or your gender. And so you're looking for somebody who wants to work with you and help you to become a professional, not a professional woman or a professional man, a professional, and the best professional that you can be. So I think, yes, that person does exist and can, but one of the things that you have to notice before you choose a mentor or a sponsor, watch how they interact with you. Watch how they interact with women of color, or with women, or with anybody, whatever, and see whether they have some unconscious bias that you think will get in the way of them being able to help you achieve your highest potential. So you have to, particularly when you're looking for someone within your own firm, watch first before you choose. Now with a mentor, it's a little easier because it's an informal relationship, and so you can begin them and end them easier than you can at something more formal like a coach or a sponsor. But in any case, what I would advise is first pay attention and watch. And then second, when you find somebody who respects you and values you, start that relationship as a sponsor or a coach. Elise?
Yeah, I would add, first of all, I agree with what you said, Carol, and I would just add to that, I think this question points out that we can't expect any one person to be everything for us, right? And we know that in our personal lives as well. If you have a life partner, that person can't be everything to you. You've got to have other relationships in your life for other reasons and get different things from different people. And so I think it's fair to say the same thing when it comes to mentors and sponsors and coaches as well. So I think that your advice to look at how that person interacts, understand what makes that person tick, and maybe where that person has some biases, look at that up front, but also understand that, as I like to put it sometimes, even if you have a great sponsor relationship or a great mentor relationship, it's not necessarily going to be all sweetness and puppies, right? I mean, we're not trying to suggest that any one of these relationships is going to be perfect. What we know about unconscious bias is that every last one of us has it. And so it's not that it's conscious bias. We may be very consciously trying to avoid bias, but the unconscious biases are there. And so even somebody who is a wonderful mentor for you or a wonderful sponsor for you can have some unconscious biases that might create some roadblocks or impediments or slow things down. And so I wouldn't necessarily, kick someone to the curb unless it's super egregious. I wouldn't necessarily kick someone to the curb if that comes up, but I would use other people in your life, whether it's other mentors, sponsors, coaches, friends, whatever it may be, to help you navigate around those obstacles. And so I think you can have kind of a web of people in your life that can help you move forward, but understand that some of the primary people who are going to be able to do that are mentors and sponsors. And I think that there are also many, straight white males who are very devoted to the idea of promoting people who don't look like them. Some of them may be out of the goodness of their hearts, but it's not entirely altruistic. They know, as we all do now, that having diverse voices in the workplace is what creates success for an organization. And so I wouldn't discount somebody just because of what they look like any more than you would want them to do that for you. Just seek out a diversity of voices in your life and advocates.
Great, thank you, Carol and Elise. I think that's it on questions. We sincerely appreciate your interest in our webinar series. So please stay on the webinar to give us your feedback. Please feel free to reach out to Jeannie Lee or Carol Bass if you have any questions. I think we're yep. Please join us on October 17th and December 5th for our next webinars. We are in the process of organizing the rest of our webinars for 2018. If you have any suggestions, please forward them to Jeannie or Carol. We have given you a link on slide 21 where you can visit us to get up-to-date information on our initiatives and programming on our ABA Women Rainmakers homepage. We wish you very successful rainmaking in 2018. We hope to see you on October 17th for our next webinar. Thank you, and here's to your successful rainmaking.